Drew Halverson here with Drew's Trackside Adventures. On this episode, we're going to head out to Big Sky Country, Montana, USA. We visited towns such as Perma, Paradise, Thompson Falls, Trout Creek, Tuscor, and Knox. We're going to check out the Montana Rail Link. We're going to see some BNSF action. There's going to be some snow, and we're going to kick it off in Thompson Falls. Here we are, Drew's Trackside Adventures, Thompson Falls, Montana. Checking out the gas local, doing its work. It's a really cool train that Montana Rail Link operates between Missoula and Thompson Falls. It completes a pipeline, and it carries everything from diesel, jet/aviation fuel to gasoline. It's really cool. It's really cool if you get a set of matching tankers. But the power is really special here too. You got the SD70 Ace, newly purchased. You got the red ball on the side. It's the new livery. You got the SD45-2, even though it looks like an SD45. So it's just a great example of what you'll see in Montana. Really cool trains. If you're modeling a train like this or tank cars like it, you got to have the hazmat placards. And you got to make sure that the numbers on the placards match up with what they're hauling in that tank car. So whether it's the diesel, the jet fuel, those numbers will vary. You want to have the wheel spray too. You can notice on the ends of these tank cars, it's where the wheels kick up dirt and mud from the rails. It shows up. It's a cool weathering tip. And look at patches too. There's cool patches. On these, for example, you have the GATX patches. These cars used to be owned by Conoco. You can see the extra 2 digits on the side. Be on the lookout for a cool thing Cody did with patches on Step by Step. Hey, here we are at the Cove. This is Montana in all of its glory. Doesn't matter how much HD you have, there's no way you can come close to matching what's out here. So you've got rock outcroppings, you've got wood piles, you've got floating ice, crystal clear blue water. All these elements could really go a long way in a model railroad scene. I've never seen any floating ice chunks on a model railroad, so this is something that you could do that's a little different. If you're doing out west, if you're doing a springtime thaw, you can take cast resin and break it up. And that's a good way to model these floating ice chunks. All right, we got a train coming up. We got a BNSF-9 bringing a stacker through the Cove. He's coming from Logistics Park, Chicago. And he's heading out west to Tacoma, Washington. Thanks to derailment up near Belton, Montana, on the High Line near Marias Pass, we've got this vehicle train coming around the corner. It's a detour, it's got a war bonnet on the point, and it's got autos heading to Logistics Park, Chicago. Here we are back in Thompson Falls. We're at Thompson River Lumber Company. And this is really one of the trains that makes the Montana Rail Link so special. It's the Paradise Local. And as you can see, it's got really cool power. It's got a couple Jeep 9s. You got the 109, you got the 127. And now we're going to actually talk to Tom Danneman, who's an expert on such matters. Let's talk about the 127.
The prototype number 127, the Montana Rail Link 127, was built in 1954 as Great Northern number 680. It later became Burlington Northern 1832 and was acquired by the MRL for the railroad startup in 1987. It was then renumbered 103 and later renumbered again to number 127 to accommodate MRL's business car fleet. Somewhere down the line, MRL updated the GP9 with dynamic brakes and the original style fuel tank and air reservoirs. These parts probably came from a donor GP9 that MRL had retired. My model represents the GP9 as it was in the early 1990s. I chop-nosed an undecorated Atlas GP9 by literally cutting down the original high hood, just like the prototype. The original cab was also reused. I hand fabricated the window area and modified the number board area using an extra Spartan cab I had laying around. I then painted and lettered the locomotive in an early version of MRL's paint scheme. The one modification which differs from most of MRL's locomotives is the thinner striping on the nose. I finished off the 127 by weathering the locomotive with an airbrush as well as chalk.
While we're here at Trout Creek, Montana, pretty reluctant to go out on the ice there. Didn't know how deep it was, and after some rainfall, there's a lot of slush on top, so really wanted to get a shot there, and we waited till the locals showed up, and some ice fishermen came by with their dog, and come to find out the ice was pretty thick, 7, 8, 9 inches, a couple inches of slush on top. Check out this high priority manifest with the GP60B third out. It's a B unit, man. This is cool. You don't see this every day. While we were in Trout Creek, we caught up with another detouring train due to that derailment up in Belton, Montana. This was a high priority Z train. Z, the train symbol, basically means it's the hottest train on the railroad and gets priority. While we're out in Trout Creek at this place called Frog Pond, we had a morning where we had about 3 or 4 trains coming through at once, so you had a great opportunity to look for some different compositions and try some different angles with photography. So we'll take a look at a few of those shots and kind of go through each one and kind of why I did it the way I did it. So this first shot here it's one of my favorites. It's hard to pick a favorite really when you go out to Montana, but as far as this morning goes, we had these trains running. We knew there was one coming from the east, and I really wanted to try something different, something to pull in the blues, the mountains, the low-hanging clouds, and found this really cool this inlet, kind of where maybe a stream rolls out, where the ice was real thin, and you could really pull out the blues and the glacial water, and really the winter scene kind of came together, and I just wanted to frame it up with a broadside of this stack train. And I think the colors work really well, and I'm pretty happy with this. This is one of my favorites from that morning for sure. Let's talk a little rule of thirds with this shot. The rule of thirds is basically a compositional technique you can use to give your photos a little more visual appeal by using this grid. As you'll see with this shot, the train isn't exactly dead center. It's more up towards that top third of the shot. And it gives the ice, it gives the water a little more weight, takes a little emphasis off the cloudy, plain sky. It's just stuff like that to keep in mind when you're out there shooting. And finally, this third shot, it's a bit different, but it really resulted from a cloudy morning and a lot of trains, because you start to ask yourself, how can I make a different shot? How can I make this scene look a little different? So I really want to just get into the trees a little bit, give the pine needles a little bit of play, and it gives you a different emphasis on the same exact location. So I went black and white in post-processing on this shot, just because it enhances the contrast a bit. You're not so worried about color, and on a gray day like this with kind of dingy locomotives like we had on this train, I didn't really want the color to stand out a lot, so I tried the grayscale. I really like it. We had an extra day out in Big Sky Country thanks to Winter Storm Luna. It basically kept our flight grounded, so we couldn't go home. So unfortunately, we had to stay out here and photograph awesome trains and awesome scenery. We hit a couple spots within 10-15 miles of each other, Knox and Tuscor. Look through the falling snow there. We got a GEVO coming our way on an eastbound grain empty here at Tuscor. So we set up shop at Knox, which is probably one of the most beautiful spots in this region along the 4th sub. You can climb up on these bluffs and you've got these really cool waterways down below, and with the snow falling, with the storm front moving in, it really created an awesome winter scene. And here comes the westbound grain train with an SD70 Ace on the point. So at this location, still in Knox, Montana, you can see the old Northern Pacific route down in that little gap in the trees there. It's pretty cool. It's just as expansive as the previous spot. You can see the mountains, the trees, but it's really good too for an eastbound, which we've got coming up right here. Well, as you can see, we're not in Montana anymore. Check out our fabulous green countryside back there, but you can get close to Montana, and so can I again with this great Trains Magazine June issue. Tom Danneman actually wrote the story, photographed, illustrated it, did it all. It's a great look at the MRL, and check us out next time on Drew's Trackside Adventures. I almost fell. I wanted to kind of create a perspective of, you know, what if you were a grizzly bear at this spot in Montana? You'd probably be lurking in the trees, you know, looking for some unsuspecting rail fan to eat, but, you know, smells like new car, tastes like rail fan.